ever seen of me. You can try and write some assumptions about me, and then I'm going to react to them sometime in June. It could be anything though, literally anything. Okay, so let's jump into these posts. I actually saved some posts last night, but I didn't read them in full. Also, do you like the bow on my head or not? I put it on randomly. I just know that I'm going to look at the video later and see how crooked it is and how it doesn't fit on my head well. Anyways, so let's start, shall we? My boyfriend, 26, male. I will also read the ages, okay? Proposed to me, 26, female, with earrings. What would you do? It was right after my shift at work. He came and picked me up like any other day, and we walked to his car. As I get situated, he pulls out a box. I was shocked, and I could feel the tears coming up. They're in a car. I feel like that wouldn't be my first thought, but okay. Then he opens it. It was earrings. Now, if we had a conversation about what jewelry I preferred, I would have told him a ring, but we didn't, so I brushed it off. Do you even, okay, I've never been engaged, but do you even have to specify that you would prefer a ring? I feel like the only scenario where you would have to specify is if, for example, they would hate having rings on their hands. Maybe it would make them feel overwhelmed, so they would tell their partner, hey, actually, like, it would be really amazing if you could perhaps get a necklace or earrings for an engagement. I feel like that's the only reason why you would really need this conversation. Otherwise, I don't know. About the type of ring, sure. But anyways, okay, I asked him if this is what he was planning all day. He says, no, I was going to just buy myself earrings from Macy's, but then I decided I wanted to get you some too. Okay, ironically enough, this is all happening in a Macy's parking lot. I need to get it together. Okay, after I heard him say that, my mind went into a spiral. So I was just an afterthought. You didn't go out of your way to plan something. Okay, pause. Aren't you supposed to have a conversation about this? Like, at least, oh yeah, maybe we should get, maybe I would want to marry you one day, you know, that kind of conversation. Aren't you supposed to, like, plan at least, like, a bit ahead? Okay. You didn't go out of your way to plan something, and he really didn't. After the proposal, that was it. We went home, did our nightly routine, and went to bed. I just feel so robbed of my first proposal experience. Well, I don't even feel like a fiancé, and to be honest, I haven't even told him that I feel like this. We've been together for over 1 year, and I uprooted everything I'm familiar with, friends and family, just so I can move with him to a different state. So I feel trapped now. What would you do in my situation? So, okay, the first thing is that it didn't really seem like a genuine proposal, but then she answered in the comments because people were confused, right? It's just like, I'm confused, like, did he actually verbally propose? And then the original poster, she replied, he verbally proposed, and I'm just as confused as you are. I thought he was joking when he first said it, but he was serious. Even made me call up my friends and family to tell them just like emotional security to make himself feel good. And I'm thinking that I felt good with that just as well. Okay, so what would I even do in this situation? And then people are asking, did you actually like tell your friends and family that you're engaged? And she's like, yeah. And people in the comments were like, well, I wouldn't, because this was no proposal. Here's the thing, okay. Different scenario, right? I feel like it's not even about the ring or the money behind the ring or whatever. Different scenario. You're walking in a field of flowers on a romantic date. All of a sudden, he sees like a beautiful flower and he makes a ring out of it, gets down on one knee and says like, will you marry me? That's cute. Okay. Different scenario would be if they agreed previously that she doesn't want a ring, or if they agreed on a timeline. Different scenario. He goes into the store to buy some shelves. While he's there, he also sees a beautiful lamp, so he buys the lamp as well. And then he goes and presents this lamp in the parking lot and says, congratulations, now you're engaged. Like, what is this? And I know that some people would be like, oh, well, you should be grateful. Personally, I feel like a thoughtful partner wouldn't even think of doing that. This is such a bizarre situation. Like, who does that, honestly? Like, a thoughtful, caring partner wouldn't. I feel like. Same with, there was this post that I read a couple months ago, I don't know, when the girl said that she hates gold rings, specifically with like oval stones, and that she only wears a silver, right? And then the boyfriend proposed with a golden ring with an oval, exactly the ring she hates. And some people are like, well, it's still a proposal, you should be grateful. But I'm like, isn't it like passive aggressive? Like, I don't know, I just think a thoughtful partner wouldn't really do that. Yeah. I don't know. Listen, I never had my ears pierced ever in my life. Not when I was a baby, not as an adult. I'm planning on getting them pierced this year, probably for the first time, but maybe in like fall, autumn, okay? And people around me knew that. People that cared, actually, they knew that. Do you know how many times I got earrings as a gift before? And it's like, sure, I don't want to be ungrateful, but also what am I supposed to do with these earrings, right? Like, what am I supposed to do? Pierce my plushie's ears? Like, so that's why I think at this point it's savable though. You can be like, hey, like, I don't really think this was a proposal, but then, like a real one, but then you already told everyone you are engaged, and then you just know that if he would propose again with an actual ring, it's going to be tainted. Like, this is just a difficult situation. And I wouldn't say like, okay, break up right now, but maybe there's a pattern, right? Like, maybe in the past he wasn't the most thoughtful partner, and this just made you realize that he's not actually the one, you know? Okay. Why? It's just why? Because he could, okay, do you know what would be cute? He could see the earrings and be like, oh look, I got you a cute gift randomly. See, like, why would it have to be a proposal? Like, when they didn't even walks. Interesting. Guy, I, 32 female, was dating 28 male. Started walking ahead of me after 8 dates. What changed? So, in all our previous dates, he seemed really into me, would walk beside me, would offer his arm, and even be mindful of my steps when we'd walk on a dirt path. After I came back from a 2-week trip, my vacation, I noticed on our first date, after having not seen each other after a while, that he would walk ahead of me into the venue. He wasn't so bad then, but he wasn't noticeable enough that I would trail behind and watch him, hands in his pockets, but he'd wait for me until I could catch up. I brought it up to him that night and told him I'd appreciate if he held my hand while walking. He agreed and said he'd do it. Then last week, I noticed the distance became further. I don't know if that's a typo. We were walking. He would be almost a block away from me. And sometimes he wouldn't even turn to check for longer periods of time. It really made me realize how important physical touch was to me as a love language, and I didn't like the feeling of being with him because I didn't feel like I was at all. Pause. Who does that? Who does that? See, like, even when you're out with friends, let's say you're out with a friend and you're walking somewhere and all of a sudden they start like walking a block away from you. What is that? Like randomly, not even after an argument, just randomly. That, I don't know how I would feel about that, honestly. That just seems so rude. It's not even about the love language. You know, it's just that he's like not being a good date, a normal person. I don't know. Like I said, I texted to end things on good terms, and his response was he wished me the best as well. I'm just curious to know if this has happened to anyone. For anyone who've dated men like this, what is your experience? And then there's an actual photo of him walking. He's probably like 50 meters in front of her. I'm not going to show you the photo, but for anyone curious enough to know how far he was walking ahead. So, do you know what I would do? If you would do this, I would just turn right or left at the first opportunity and just leave and go home. Because clearly he doesn't want to talk to her. Like, what is this? I don't know. I feel like this is some sort of like passive aggressiveness and him just not being able to tell her he doesn't want to see her anymore. That's my guess. Then she says, I texted him last week saying we're likely incompatible for other reasons, not the walking. And I noticed he's become physically distant. See, yeah, I would take that as like, okay, you clearly don't want to be here. So why are we wasting time here? I would just leave, honestly. And maybe I would wait for a phone call when he would realize that I'm not there. Who does that, honestly? Okay. So, next one. My 24 female boyfriend, 32 male, told me he was a doctor chance if I knew he worked at Taco Bell from the start, but I'm in love with him at this point. Hold up. You don't even know this person. You don't. This woman, is it? Yeah. She doesn't even know him. As a person, clearly, she cannot be in love with him. She probably is in love with the idea of him, sure. But in love, actually, come on, probably not. What do I do once I manage to talk to him again? So, okay. Why do people do this? Why do they do this? Is it to like impress? Yeah, I guess so. But then what do you think is going to happen when they find out the truth? Seriously, like what? Okay, this person was ashamed that they're working in Taco Bell. Okay, now you're a liar working in Taco Bell. I just don't get it. I don't. How are you supposed to start a relationship when you're lying from the start? Honestly, I feel like because he's not even answering, that he's just too embarrassed and he will just ghost her probably. Yeah. Okay, one of the comments says, it is not normal for people to lie like this. Is it? Send them my way. It is especially not normal to start a relationship off with such a big lie. Like others have said, who knows what else he has lied about or is capable of lying about. I'm sorry, but I personally think it is best to cut your losses now. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably just move on. People are saying, yeah, it's a big red flag. Even if they would be just like friends with benefits, because like now, see, that's like the thing. Like now you cannot trust the person. You can like you lied from the get-go instead of telling the truth. What now? Okay. Next story. Oh wait, okay, I would forget. There was this post that I found actually on Facebook like a month ago, and it inspired me to make this video. But I have to find it for you, okay? So actually I found this in a random Facebook group. Now I don't use Facebook ever. I still have it. I still have the profile, but I don't use it ever. Only when I'm extremely bored. I scroll on Facebook, but that doesn't happen very often. But I stumbled upon this post that is literally like the relationship advice subreddit. And this poor woman was asking what she should do in this situation, so let me read this post for you. I have to translate it as I go because it's originally written in Czech, so just bear with me, okay? 4 years ago, my husband started to take walks. This is so interesting. In the old mysterious Prague. If you think that it makes sense in Czech, it doesn't. Later on, he started to go on trips on the weekends with likely minded people. He didn't want unfair, basically. Okay. He used to laugh at that until what is this? Until one paresthesia, seeing magic beings, apparently understands him more than I do after 40-year relationship. I don't know if it's marriage, maybe it is. Yeah, marriage. 40-year long relationship. Okay, are you following? He moved out. He says he loves her. And the only things he took from our home are feathers, pebble stones, bended spoon, a broken arrow, and a toothbrush. Those are the only things he took. He goes to saunas with her. He walks on hot coal. He hugs trees. And apparently, nobody can understand him like the priestess and this magical group of people in his circle. Apparently, with this woman, it's not about physical intimacy, but about mystical, supernatural understanding. I feel like he became somebody that I don't know. So, the reason why this got to me was that the only thing he took from the house, it's not even funny to be honest, after 40-year marriage, are feathers, pebble stones, a bended spoon, a broken arrow, and a toothbrush. It's not even like hyperbole. No, it's not a metaphor. Those are the only things he took. So already I'm just like, this poor woman, right? But the comments were insane. So many people in the comments were like, oh, he found his twin flame. He found his soulmate. You should be grateful for the journey you have completed. Now it is over and you should move on. Like, so many people in the comments, or first of all, they were not giving her any advice. They were just like, oh yeah, that's what he was supposed to do all along. Can you imagine this poor woman after being with somebody for 40 years? 40 years. Let's say they got married at the age of 20. Like, back then, you would get married really young and like soon in the relationship, right? So let's say they got married at the age of 20. They're now in their 60s. And all of a sudden he just decides to like leave with some bended spoons and a broken arrow. This poor woman. But there's this comment that actually really got to me. Oh yeah, then people were saying, oh, your husband is currently in a karmic relationship. This is what he was supposed to be doing all along. Okay, let me read you this comment that just, yeah, got to me. This is what happens when I'll try to like translate it so they would make sense. It doesn't make sense in Czech either. I'm doing my best here, okay? That when values and life are completely different. It is interesting that he didn't want to take you on these trips before. Were you being disrespectful to him in any way? I think that's what I mean. Or were you making fun of him? Okay, like that's basically what it says. It doesn't really, but I'm like filling in context here. Then, how many spoons I didn't even know what to do in this situation, right? Because he just kind of decided to move on. But people in the comments were saying that this is a cult, that this is a legit cult, and that it happened to them. Same thing, pretty much. And that the next thing the cult did is that it went after their assets. And so this woman should get divorced as soon as possible. Because the way the laws work in the Czech Republic is like when one side, I don't know exactly, but like when one side agrees to something, it's really, really difficult to fight it. For example, with selling a house, because you kind of work as like one unit when you're married. Like one person, literally. Like you share debt, you share finances, everything, unless you have a prenup, of course. But this poor woman, and yeah, see, I have nothing against even like religions that technically could be considered cultish as long as you're not hurting anyone. But unfortunately, in these dynamics, somebody gets hurt, right? I'm quite fascinated with cults, if I'm being honest. I would never enter into one, but for example, my funny story, okay, my father almost entered into a Korean cult back in the 90s, back before I was even born. And it's this called, I don't know the name exactly, they're called like Moonies, I think. And they have these huge, I don't know, arranged weddings, group weddings. So if you look it up, you can find pictures of halls just filled with people that are getting married at the same time. And some of his friends actually entered into this cult, and they got, it was actually a woman, his friend, she got an arranged Korean husband. They couldn't even talk properly together. They didn't even share the same language. But I honestly, I don't know why anybody would agree to something like this if you cannot even talk. Why would you marry somebody? I guess the cult wanted it. I don't know. But if you're curious, this happened like obviously years ago, right? But they had kids together. I don't think she ever went to Korea, but at some point the husband just left her out of the blue, and he just left the kids in the Czech Republic, my country, home country. And then he came back after like many, many years, and the people that, his friends that already were married, and of course you don't have to marry anyone else, like you're not gonna get divorced. But because of that, because I was hearing stories about it from a young age, I was kind of curious, like how does it work? What makes somebody enter into a cult? And there are loud sounds outside. I cannot even finish the story, but it's interesting that me as an adult sort of became attached to Korea out of the blue randomly. It's like, I don't know, was it like part of my destiny? I don't know. But yeah, if he would actually end up entering this cult, then he probably would have an arranged marriage Does she love you though? Clearly not. She's pretty demanding when it comes to attention. I knew that from the start. She used to be in a poly relationship, but changed that a couple of years ago. Oh, she used to be like polyamorous, but she changed that a couple of years ago. In the past, she kept giving me hints that she needs more time with someone who loves her because I have to work 8 hours a day, and things along those lines. Pause. What? What? Now she spends the part of her day where I'm not there with her on not safe for work Discord servers and talking to a lot of random guys on the internet. That's not good. No. I feel like that's a really bad sign, but I wanted to hear different opinions before I overreact, so I need help to figure out what to do. Every feedback is welcome. See, if somebody tells you you're not good enough for me, or when they show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. Because they want change, right? And maybe because he says, oh, I love her, but do you want to be in a relationship with somebody that clearly doesn't love you? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's low self-esteem. And maybe, that's why people stay in relationships like this, right? And I feel for him. Because I used to also have a really low self-esteem. And I would be more tolerant to certain type of behavior, even from friends, even from family, unfortunately. Because usually this kind of has to do with, your upbringing, your childhood, and the way you were raised. Usually people like this, they were not given enough love, and then unfortunately they mirror those types of relationships as an adult. My advice would be just leave. Just leave. And the worst part is people like this, they kind of feel like they should deserve better, but they don't really believe it. And then when somebody good for them actually likes them, they're just like, oh, I don't deserve this. You wouldn't like me if you really knew me. How can somebody like you really like me? That's fake. And they just sort of end up repeating the cycle over and over again. I've read about this dynamic specifically in some books. It's just sad. But my advice would be just stay single, to break up with this person that clearly doesn't value him at all, and just try to heal on your own, basically. But it's always sad because, usually it's people that have a good heart and they just end up being mistreated by people that just want to take advantage of them. Okay, so I have one last story, but I'm running out of time already. I'll just read the title. Okay, my 32 female boyfriend, 33 male, doesn't brush his teeth before bed. It's gross. How can I get him to improve his hygiene? And he's saying that he gets annoyed when she tries to tell him to brush his teeth, even though she tries not to nag him. This is a 33-year-old man who doesn't brush his teeth. I feel like you cannot really do anything about it. Like, you're not going to make somebody brush their teeth unless you're like going to take a toothbrush and actually threatening them. But my advice would be, why even bother with people like this? I feel like hygiene is just the bare minimum. And then their breath must smell like, no. and reading them. So that will be it